What if I told you that the very organ you use to see the world, to make sense of everything, isn't actually designed for the truth? That every single day it can be hijacked, fooled, and led down the wrong path, and it won't even send up a warning flare.
Yeah, you heard that right. This isn't some metaphor. It's a conclusion that's rooted in decades of psychology and neuroscience. And, well, it brings up a pretty unsettling question, doesn't it?
So, to answer that, we're going to have to conduct a little psychological investigation to peel back the layers and uncover the hidden machinery that's running the show inside our own heads. We're looking for a glitch in our mental software. Okay, so the first thing you have to wrap your head around is that your brain is hardwired for one thing above all else: protection. And I'm not just talking about keeping you from physical harm, I'm talking about protecting you from psychological threats. And sometimes a simple, inconvenient fact can feel like the biggest threat of all. And this is where we find our first psychological suspect. Just think about it for a second. When one of your core beliefs gets challenged, it doesn't feel like a friendly debate, does it? No, it feels like an attack. Psychologically, your brain reads a challenge to your worldview as a threat to your personal identity, and it triggers the exact same defensive responses it would for a physical danger. It's not about being stubborn, it's a deep, primal defense mechanism. And here's the real kicker: your brain actually rewards you for fighting back. When you successfully defend your position, when you win that argument, your brain releases this little cocktail of pleasure hormones, dopamine, adrenaline. It's the same chemical rush you get from your favorite food or winning a game. It feels good to be right, which of course just makes us want to defend our beliefs even more, no matter what the evidence says. It's a biological incentive to just keep believing. So our brain is primed and ready to defend what it already thinks is true. But how do these false beliefs get lodged in our minds in the first place? Well, this leads us to our first clue in this investigation: a simple, almost invisible psychological trick: repetition. This is called the illusory truth effect. See, our brains are, for lack of a better word, kind of lazy. They prefer shortcuts to save energy. And when we hear something over and over and over again, it becomes really easy for our brain to process. It feels familiar. And that's where the brain makes a dangerous leap. It mistakes that easy, familiar feeling for a sign of truth. The easier it is to recall, the more true it feels. And the power of this effect is honestly startling. Studies have found this is so potent, it can convince people who knew the correct answer to begin with to start believing a total lie. It's like the echo of the lie just becomes louder than the fact they once knew was true. And oh, it gets worse. We don't just passively absorb these repeated lies. We actually go out and look for them. This is confirmation bias. It's our brain's little unintentional strategy of going on a mission not for the truth, but for any piece of evidence that proves what we already believe is right, while conveniently ignoring or explaining away anything that might contradict it. Okay, let's move on to our second clue. We've seen how lies can sneak in through the back door of repetition and how we actively search for things to prop them up. But what happens when we're finally cornered by a fact we just can't ignore? Well, the answer is, it hurts. It literally causes mental pain. This mental pain has a name: cognitive dissonance. You can think of it like psychological static, that buzzing, deeply uncomfortable feeling you get when you're trying to hold two conflicting ideas in your head at the same time. Your brain absolutely hates this feeling, and it becomes incredibly motivated to do whatever it takes to turn off that static. So how do we escape this mental stress? We've got 4 main escape hatches. The first, and the most logical one, is to just change our original belief. But, surprise, surprise, studies suggest this is the road we almost never take. It's just so much easier to take one of the other 3 paths: twisty new information, add some new rationalizations, or just flat out deny the fact to make the pain go away. And this really gets to the heart of it. The psychologist who pioneered this theory, Leon Festinger, he summed it up perfectly. When a person is in that state of dissonance, facts don't work. Logic doesn't work. The main motivation is not to be right, it's to feel right. And get this, we can actually see this happening inside the brain. Neuroimaging studies found that when politically partisan people were shown contradictory statements from their favorite candidate, it wasn't the logic and reasoning parts of their brain that lit up. It was the emotional centers. This wasn't cool, rational thinking. This was the brain's emotional circuitry firing on all cylinders to fight off that uncomfortable dissonance and defend the belief. Which brings us to our third, and maybe the most powerful clue of all. Our beliefs, they don't exist in a vacuum. They are deeply, profoundly social. And sometimes, for our survival, being part of the group matters way more than being factually correct. According to something called social identity theory, we are just wired to form tribes. And our beliefs? They're not just ideas we hold, they're our badges of belonging. They're like our team jerseys, signaling who's with us and who's against us. This creates a powerful in-group bias, where we automatically prefer people and information that comes from our own side. A study from NYU demonstrates this perfectly. They found that both Democrats and Republicans were far, far more likely to believe negative fake news stories about their political opponents than about their own side. The source of the story mattered more than the story itself. If it came from our tribe, we're open to it. If it came from their tribe, the shields go up. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. The same study found something incredible. When a piece of fake news came from someone inside their group, but the correction came from an outsider, people didn't change their minds. They doubled down. They actually became even more committed to the lie. It's called the backfire effect, where a fact, when seen through that tribal lens, actually strengthens the misinformation it's supposed to debunk. So, we have our clues. Our brains are rewarded for being right. They mistake familiarity for truth. They feel actual pain when contradicted, and they prioritize the tribe over facts. But all of this is psychology. For the final revelation, for the smoking gun, we need to go deeper, all the way down to the level of pure neuroscience. You know, is there some kind of internal alarm bell? A unique neural signature that fires off when we see something that's false? A groundbreaking study from Texas A&M University used EEG brain imaging tech to find out exactly that. And the results were staggering. When the researchers measured people's brain activity while they were reading real news versus fake news, they found nothing. No unique signal, no automatic red flag. From a neurocognitive perspective, the brain showed no statistically significant difference in how it initially processed a truth versus a lie. So let's be really clear about what this means. The researchers themselves concluded that our vulnerability to fake news isn't just a psychological quirk. It is a fundamental limitation of our biology. Our brains may simply not have evolved a built-in automatic lie detector for the kind of complex information we have to deal with every single day. So let's bring all the evidence together. The illusory truth effect, cognitive dissonance, social identity. All these powerful psychological forces are running on biological hardware that can't automatically tell fact from fiction. Our brains aren't broken. They are just optimized for a totally different purpose. They evolved to help us survive, to maintain our social bonds, and to save energy. And in many, many cases, feeling good, feeling safe, and belonging to the tribe, well, those are just better survival strategies than knowing the cold, hard, objective truth. And all of this leaves us with one final, unavoidable question. We all like to think of ourselves as rational people, in charge of our own minds. But if our brains have these deep biological blind spots and are so easily manipulated by repetition and emotion and tribalism, who or what is really in control of what you believe?